What we're going to do is now that all our pieces are sewn and turned and pressed, we're going to move on to jointing so we can get the baby all put together. This looks difficult, but it really isn't. I've already made my washers like in the tutorial. What I did with these ones though is I just used a nail file to file along the outside edge, and that made it smooth enough that I didn't have to melt. If you're more comfortable melting, you can do that as well. This was just a time saver. So I have, for the foot joint here, I have two handmade washers, one that came with the set, a locking washer, and the joint for the ankle. For the knee, I have two handmade washers, one that came with a set, a locking washer, and a joint. And then for the hip, I just have the joint, the washer, and the locking washer. So what we're going to do first is we are going to make a hole, like in the tutorial, where you're going to put the joint through. I've already done this just to save time for the video. I also made the holes on the inside of the joints. This is all explained in the tutorial. I just wanted to show you exactly how to install the joints in this little video segment. I also have the side of the hip hole here. It's hard to see, but it's right there and ready to be inserted. So I'm just gonna set my phone down and show you what we're gonna do here. Now what we're gonna do is make sure that when we attach our leg, which I'll do it this way, that the opening for the foot and the back of the calf and the back of the thigh are all facing the same direction. If you do it the other direction, you're going to have a seam on the front of your leg, which isn't horrible, but it's also not ideal. What you're going to do is you're going to take your joint, carefully slide it into your lower limb so that it comes out one of the holes that you formed. So kind of like, I described it like a little tooth almost. The next step will be to take one of your handmade washers and push it down over your joint. Now this washer, the purpose of it is to reduce the friction on when you attach this part. If you have just fabric on fabric, it doesn't like to turn. If you have this little washer preventing the friction, it'll allow a much easier turning. So then once you've put on your handmade washer, you'll push on your foot or your hand or whatever part you're working with. Then what I'm going to do is add my second handmade washer. So we're now at this stage to put it back inside that hole on the other side. So you're going to kind of have to feel for it. Once it's inside the hole, you'll take the washer that came with the joint set. I like to put smooth side down. So I'm going to slide that in over top of my post. You're just going to have to feel for it. Oh, this part can be a little bit more difficult. So I've slided that over my post. You can't see it, but it's in there. Then I'll take the locking washer and slide it on top. Once it's on there and you don't have any skin or lining blocking it, you'll squeeze it down until you feel or hear a little click. I'm just going to pull this aside for 1 second just to kind of really get it on there. Just 1 second. There we go. What you can do is just really reef up on this and make sure it locked. Sometimes they don't like to lock, but this one locked really well. You can then take your chopsticks. This is a little trick that's not in the tutorial. And make sure that inside of the joint is really tucked nice and high in there. And then your joint should move. It's going to move a little stiffer at this point because there's no weight, but it should move just fine. You'll repeat that step with the next part. And then I will pause for a moment and I'll do this one, and then I will just show you how we attach it to the body.